All right, our first robber baron we're going to cover in this video is going to be John D. Rockefeller. He lived from 1839 to 1937. So if you count the years up, that is actually 98 years old. Now, how did he live that long? Well, a couple of things. One, he never drank. Two, he never smoked. He never did drugs. Also, John D. Rockefeller, in his older years, whenever his health was failing, had one of the best doctors in the country follow him around everywhere he went. The doctor was on call to help him out. So that probably added another 10 years to his life. All right, Rockefeller's father was a traveling salesman who always sought to cheat him, okay? Rockefeller's father would come home in the middle of the night after drinking and gambling and womanizing and things like that. And he would basically steal all the money in the house. He would steal his son's money and his wife's money, and then they wouldn't see him again for a month. So Rockefeller really did not want to be anything like his father, and that's why he didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't gamble. He turned out to be a very strong Christian, even though a lot of people would have questioned his tactics as a robber baron and how that relates to being a Christian. Anyway, in 1859, at 20 years old, he became a partner in a wholesale food business, which later built an oil refinery in Cleveland, Ohio. He started off small in Ohio, y'all. I think it was like something like 3% of the entire national oil. And this was when the oil industry was just starting, okay? So this is John D. Rockefeller at the age of 20. And again, this is him probably in his 70s right there. So you can see how he looks. Now, this guy was absolutely ruthless in the way he made business, okay? Now, you see a political cartoon here. Since you're not here, I'll just explain it to you, okay? You have what is a giant oil separator here. It's a big old can. If you want to see some of these in person, if you go back past the Canal Refinery on the way to Lewisburg, they have tons of them right there. They haven't been used in 20 or 30 years. So, big old oil can, okay? And it looks like a monster, right? It's tentacles, which is actually pipelines, are coming out of the oil can. And what are the tentacles doing? Well, they're controlling everything, right? So look, they're controlling towns, they're controlling post offices, they're controlling banks, they're controlling the railroads, the shipping, they're controlling oil, and even all the way back to the Capitol building itself in Washington, D.C. So the message behind this is that John D. Rockefeller's power stretched so far that he controlled literally everything. That is the definition of a monopoly, okay? All right. In 1870, Rockefeller created the Standard Oil Company of Ohio. He controlled 3% of the oil industry by then. By 1880, which is 10 years later, he controlled 90% of the oil in the United States of America. Can you imagine how powerful you have to get to grow, to control 90% of all oil in the United States within 10 years? Let me tell you how he did it, okay? So, reasons for Rockefeller's success, okay? Number one, secret railroad rebates, okay? So because he shipped so much product, he forced the railroads to give cheaper shipping rates. All right, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Y'all remember we talked about him. He's the railroad robber baron. So when Rockefeller was first starting out, when he just had that 3% of oil and gas in America, he went to Cornelius Vanderbilt and he made him a promise. He said, if you give me a discount on my shipping rates, then I will actually fill every one of your trains. You will never have to have another customer besides me. So Cornelius thought it was a good idea, and Rockefeller, for tax purposes, had to pay full price. However, Cornelius Vanderbilt would kick back some of the money to him, half, okay? He would give him half his money back for shipping. That way it didn't look like he was being preferential to any other customers, okay? All right. He pioneered the use of the trust company. Rockefeller basically invented the trust company, and he buried small businesses and brought efficiency to a chaotic and wasteful oil industry. Okay. Rockefeller used economic leverage to force others out of business. This is called horizontal consolidation. Remember, horizontal is like this, and consolidation means you bring it together. You're buying out all your competitors. Let me give you the example here, okay? So let's say there's 5 gas stations in Church Point, all right? So what Rockefeller would do is he would come into Church Point and he would have a meeting with all 5 of the gas station owners, okay? And he would say this to them, okay? If you let me run your business for you, then I guarantee you, you'll get 25 cents a gallon for every gallon of gas your gas station sells for the rest of your life. In other words, you give me your business, you just let me run it, you still own it, okay? You just let me run it, and you sit at home and collect a check for the rest of your life. That was the deal. Well, let's say that 3 of the people that own the gas stations agree. So Rockefeller now controls, not owns, but controls 3 gas stations. They trust him. That's a trust company, okay? So what he's gonna do is he's gonna take those 3 gas stations, and the other guys are making 25 cents a gallon, right? The other 2 that didn't sell to Rockefeller. So Rockefeller would take those 3 gas stations and he would drop the price down to 10 cents a gallon at those 3 gas stations that he controlled. Now, what would happen to the guys that are selling at 25 cents a gallon? Well, would you pay more than double the price of gasoline just because? Probably not. So everybody in Church Point goes to the Rockefeller style gas stations, Standard Oil gas stations. What happens to those other 2? Well, they go out of business. And then Rockefeller swoops in and buys those 2 for pennies on the dollar of what they're worth. So instead of, let's say, $100,000 for a gas station, he picks it up for $10,000 just to get them out of the hole. Now he owns all 5 gas stations in Church Point. What can he now do with the price? All right, new prices, 50 cents a gallon. Everybody in Church Point has to pay 50 cents a gallon. And it's all because he has a monopoly, okay? He controls the entire market, therefore he gets to set the prices. So that's what he did there. He knocked out his competitors and consolidated them horizontally. Rockefeller aggressively cut costs. His business style was copied by Sam Walton, which is actually the maker of Walmart. Okay, that's why Walmart's on top of retail in America. By the way, 1 out of every $5 spent at retail stores in this country is spent at a Walmart. And it's because they are using Rockefeller's horizontal consolidation to buy out their competitors and control the market. The first thing Walmart does when they move into a small town, like let's say Church Point, they do what Rockefeller did. They drop the prices and they starve out the local businesses because people want the best prices. As soon as all the local businesses are dead, Walmart raises the prices, okay? So anyway, that's still going on today.